I want to tell you a story this morning. I want to start with a story. It's a true story. It is. When I was growing up as a boy, of course, I spent every summer, all summer, with my uncles. And I came to respect those men, not for always what they did, but for their storytelling ability, because they were good. And I've told you many times about Harold and Harley and Bill and Bob. Bob was my father. I wasn't allowed to call him Bob, but my uncles did. But the three biggest storytellers were Harley and Bill and Bob. And every summer we'd sit up there on their ranch. Right over here in Holly Hill, it's all subdivisions now, but in those days it was a big cattle ranch. And they'd take 2 weeks of the summer off, and I'd get left back in Holly Hill with all the women. And those three would go up into the mountains to a cabin they had up there. Bill actually owned a cabin up there, way up in the mountains, and they'd go hunting for 2 weeks. And one can only imagine what went on in that cabin. But Bill would always go up a couple days early and get it opened up and get the gas on and get the water going and, get all the critters out of the cabin. He was up there, and finally Harley and Bob drove up, and they were sitting out there in their front porch, as they always do at the end of the first night. They hadn't been hunting yet, but they were cleaning their guns and loading their guns and getting them ready for first light in the morning. And while they were sitting out there, of course, Bill said, you guys aren't going to believe this, but I seen probably what was the biggest bird I've ever seen in my life. And they said, no, what kind of bird was it? He says, I don't know. I never seen nothing like it, but it picked up old Jake. He says, old Jake's a big old man. There ain't no bird big enough to pick up old Jake. He said, I'm telling you, it picked up old Jake and carried him off. Now, Bob and Harley know Bill, and they say, you are the biggest liar. You standing right out here in front of God telling us that story. Well, what they didn't know, see, there's a hunting contest during one of the weeks. What they didn't know is Jake, who was an avid hunter, and another old guy up there with a cabin just down the street, Jake wanted to get the upper hand on these guys. So he watched a show about hang gliding. And he took his money and he bought a hang glider, thinking that if he could get up above the trees, that he could look down and see where the biggest bucks and that stuff were running. And so he put this thing together, went up on top of the mountain, jumped off the bluff, and he was amazed. He's flying around this thing and for days. And he's practicing shooting. And he's seeing bucks up there, and he goes, oh, I'm going to beat these guys this year, because Harley ain't never lost, or Bill. And they're flying around. So Bill's sitting here telling these guys that I seen the biggest bird I ever seen. It picked up Jake and carried him off. And he said, you are out of your mind, Bill. That stupid has really set in your old age. Just about that time, a giant shadow goes over him. Bill jumps up out of his chair, grabs a shotgun. And Bob and Harley are sitting there going, holy mackerel. I never seen a bird that big. And they saw him fly off. Harley says, Bill, I thought you were a better shot than that. You missed him. He says, yeah, I know, but at least I got him to drop Jake. That's a true story. My daddy told me that one. Always trying to get a leg up. Ambition is an incredible thing. Always trying to get ahead. And the minute you try to, somebody's always there to shoot you down, aren't they? We're going to talk about ambition this morning. James and John, you remember who they were in the Bible? The Bible calls them the sons of thunder. Big-fisted, I'm thinking big-fisted, beer-guzzling, brawling kind of guys, that Jesus chose to be the apostles. So these two monkeys came up to Jesus and said, will you do a favor for us? And Jesus said, sure, fellas, what do you want? Well, when we're in heaven and all of glory and all that, can I sit on your right and my brother sit on your left? of all the guys to ask that question, the sons of thunder. This is the one time they asked a stupid question, and they asked a lot of them in the Gospels. The one time they asked a stupid question, an ambitious question, that Jesus didn't get mad at them. Did you notice that? He didn't get mad. He usually rebukes them and gets mad at them. He didn't. He said, boys, let me ask you something. Can you do what I got to do? And they yelled, we can. We are able. He said, okay. I'm going to tell you the truth. You will do what I've got to do. But to sit at my right and left, that's not for me to give. And then he took them and he set them down. He says, those of you who wish to be greatest, you need to be the servant of all. Even the Son of God didn't come to be served, but to serve. So if you're going to drink the cup I drank and be baptized with the baptism that I am baptized, then you need to take the least place. We're going to talk about the dangers of ambition. First, I want you to stand up.